Do you know that there's an angel in the Bible that most people don't know about? His job is to count everything.
All right, let's see it.
His name is Palmoni, and it's the Hebrew word that is found in Daniel chapter 8.
So this content creator is talking about Daniel 8:13. Here is verse 13 and 14 from the updated edition of the New Revised Standard Version. Then I heard a Holy One speaking, and another Holy One said to the one who spoke, "For how long is this vision concerning the regular burnt offering, the transgression that makes desolate, and the giving over of the sanctuary and host to be trampled?" And he answered him, "For 2,300 evenings and mornings, then the sanctuary shall be restored to its rightful state." Now, the Hebrew word palmoni is being rendered here in the NRSV UE as the one. In the phrase, another Holy One said to the one who spoke. And we can look at the Hebrew here. The red box is around the phrase la palmoni, and then immediately after that, to the left, you have hamdaber, which means who spoke. So la palmoni is being rendered in the NRSV UE as the one. And one of the reasons we know this is actually not a name is because the character on the far right of that name, the first character of the word, is actually a preposition, the Hebrew lamed. And underneath it, you have a horizontal dash, and that is a vowel called a patach. And what that indicates here is that there is a definite article in front of the word palmoni, at least according to the way that the Masoretic tradition vocalized the text 1,000 years ago. And personal names almost never take definite articles. And so this is being understood not as a personal name, but as something else. And we know what that something else is, because if you look in modern lexicons, you will see palmoni is analogous in form to poloni and almoni. So-and-so, someone. It is a replacement name. It is a way to refer to someone without using their name, either because you don't want to say it or because you don't know it. And this is common around the world today. In fact, in Spanish, you would say fulano. I heard all the time when I lived in Uruguay, fulano de tal, so-and-so from such and such. And fulano is actually related to our words here, because fulano is borrowed into Spanish from Arabic, where it is fulan. And this borrowing occurred when Muslims ruled the Iberian Peninsula between like the 8th and the 15th centuries CE. And fulan in Arabic is cognate with the Hebrew poloni. So poloni, almoni, palmoni, they're all related ways to refer to so-and-so or someone. And so when we go back to the Hebrew, we have la palmoni. So the Holy One said to so-and-so, to the other one, which spoke or who spoke. Now, a long time ago, scholars thought, well, maybe palmoni is a combination of the Hebrew word pele, which has an aleph on the end of it and means something wonderful, miracle, maybe secret, and the verbal root mana, which means to count, to number, to allocate, something like that. And that's where we get this idea that this is the angel who is in charge of counting stuff, because the question being asked of this angel, according to the traditional interpretation, is how many days? And the Holy One answers 2,300 evenings and mornings. So because the question has to do with a number, and because we could possibly reconstruct the notion that this has something to do with numbering, maybe that's supposed to be a name. That's something that was more popular in the 19th century. The overwhelming majority of scholars today don't agree with that and agree that palmoni is just related to poloni and almoni and is just a substitute name that means something like so-and-so, someone, or, as in Spanish, fulano.
And the King James boys hated this idea because the Catholics had been worshiping angels. The King James boys were, of course, the Church of England, and they were like, no, we don't want to have any additional names of angels in there. So they just call it the one. That's so weak.
The King James Version does not just render the one. That's how the NRSV UE renders it. That's how many modern translations render la palmoni. But the King James Version actually renders that certain saint. And the word saint is in italics because it's not actually in the Hebrew. So that certain is how the King James Version would be rendering just palmoni all by itself.
Do you know what the name Palmoni means? It means the wonderful numberer of secrets.
Have an awesome name.
So that's not what it means, as we've already seen. However, for this guy to be dragging the King James Version as unwilling to use that designation and to misrepresent what the King James actually renders, and then to say it means the wonderful number of secrets, which is just conflating the two different things that the King James Version says it could mean. Because if we go to the King James Version, there's a marginal note. This is the 1611 King James Version, and in the margins for that certain saint, they offer this explanation: the number of secrets, or the wonderful numberer, Hebrew Palmoni. And so this content creator is just combining these two and saying, oh, it means the wonderful number of secrets. So they're dragging the King James translators for being unwilling to use more angelic names, even though this is very clearly not a name. And then the meaning that they offer is just a conflation of the two different meanings that the King James translators offered for this thing that is very clearly a noun. So this content creator doesn't really have the first clue what they're talking about.
So he's the number of secrets. So everything in heaven is weighed, it's measured, it's counted, and it's all supposed to glorify Jesus. All of it is. If you have a deity that comes in and says, I'm going to tell you about numbers, I'm going to give you this ancient knowledge, and I'm going to send you down this path, the path is to keep you from seeing Jesus. Yeah. That's what the whole path is about.
Nothing in the Hebrew Bible is about Jesus or is about glorifying Jesus, because Jesus of Nazareth didn't exist when any of the Hebrew Bible was being written, and nobody who's responsible for any syllable of the Hebrew Bible had any inkling that Jesus of Nazareth would exist. This content creator, again, doesn't know what they're talking about, is just appealing to outdated 19th century misunderstandings of what's going on in the Hebrew, and they very clearly are not able to actually interrogate any of these claims in a competent way. They're just repeating stuff that they've heard other people say. And the fit for this video has been DuckTales, a woohoo!